Good everyone. I hope you guys have an amazing day. So today I'm going to talk about selection rules. Like in the previous episode, I talked about alert types, right? So today I will be talking about the selection one. Now you must be wondering, okay, we got validation rules in place, we got alert rules in place. Now why do we need a selection rules, right? So with the selection rules, you can adjust the product options in a bundle. So for instance, right, you say for I'll just give you an example that will make it very clear, right? So I got this code, right? Existing code. So I'm gonna add a desktop computer as a product bundle. So I'll go to edit lines. Now let's go to say I choose this desktop computer and I will select this, right? Now, say for instance, I'm using this in this bundle, right? If I wanted to use the CPQ, sorry, no, the CPU 28 gigahertz, right? Then I would be able to select all of this quantity, all of this storage, right? I could select, the hard disk 4 terabyte. I could select SSD. I could select, NVM or optic drive. Now, imagine if you have a scenario where if you select this, right, then you shouldn't be able to select this one, right? So that's where the selection rule comes in picture. I'll show you an example. So for instance, I select this one, right? This processor, and I was able to select this one, right? Which is fantastic. Now for some reason I have a change of mind and I decide to select this and I decide to apply the rules. Now you see what happens. Now you can see this is disabled, right? I can no longer select it. So that's where the selection rules comes in the picture. Now selection rules have different types. You have remove, you have enable, you have disable, you have enable and add, disable and remove, show, hide, show and add, remove and hide, right? A lot of options. I'll show you how to configure it. Okay. The first thing first, you need to have a product rule in place. So I'll go to product rule. So I've configured it. So I'm just going to walk you through how it's all done. So I go to computer, that's the name of the product rule. I could have named it better, but it's all right. So I selected the type to selection, right? And rest is pretty much the same what we have discussed for other types, right? Alert and validation. Now, as usual, we need to have an error condition defined. So I've already defined that. So the error condition is if the sum of processor, and which is the summary variable. Let me go to the summary variable. So what I've said, if the sum of this processor, right, CPU, if it's greater than 1, right, obviously greater than 0, uh, then you should kick in that product action. So that's pretty much it. So it will trigger error condition if your product bundle contains this specific uh, CPU whose quantity is greater than 0, right? Oh, I hope that's explained. Okay, so once that's done, right, now all you have to do, you got to go to error condition, sorry, action. So you can go to new and do that. So I'll do it here, and you select the type, which is different types. Now add, you will add a specified option. Remove, it deselects the specified option. You will be able to deselect it and enable. So if an option is disabled, so that action will enable it. Um, then you will have disable. So disable an option so user can't select it. Enable and add. Enable an option and select it. Disable and remove. Deselect an option. Deselect an option and disable it. So that's one of the option I've demonstrated, right, where I've been able to select um, the hard drive, right, of something called NVM, and then when I uh, changed the CPU configuration, so I was able to, it got deselected, right? So that's the option, and then you have show, which show and hidden option. Then you have hide, which prevents an option from showing. Um, Show and add, show the option is selected. Remove, so hide and remove. Yeah, deselect an option, and yeah, so Okay, so once you do that, you need to select a product which you wanted to, so uh, to, in this case, disable and remove. So I've selected this, right? So what that means is that if your product rule hits the error condition, right, where the sum of the specific CPU is greater than sum of quantities of the specific CPU is greater than zero, then it will disable and remove this uh, hard disk, right? So that's pretty much it. You can add the filter condition, but I'm not going to do that. This is pretty much all to it. So that's all. When it comes to the selection rule, you can add other. You can play with different ones. Like I said, you can try to add. You can try to remove it. You can try to enable and add. You can play with different options. And another thing is you do need to have a configuration option, configuration rule, which is pretty much the same like discussed in the previous episode. You select the product rule and you select a product. That's pretty much it. So that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about in today's episode. It's pretty simple, but I will highly encourage you to go through the documentation and have a play around. CPQ is a vast topic, but you should be proactive to do different things. Like I said, right? Like I always say, form a study group, right? Work with your mates, and come up with a scenario. It's fun when you come up with a scenario and try to solve a business problem, right? That's where you learn things, right? It's okay. I mean, you're watching my videos. I hope I'm adding some value, but in saying that, I would highly encourage you to join a user group or form a study group, and that's the best way, guys, you can learn it. So, in saying that, um, I really hope you enjoy CPQ because CPQ is an amazing product. I really love CPQ. It's one of the best component or the product on Salesforce space, I would say. I mean, I really enjoy working with CPQ. I've done CPQ before, and I can do CPQ alone on Salesforce space, for years to come. So, I would say that CPQ and velocity, these are the two things which is pretty exciting, right? All right. Sorry, I digress. So I hope you guys have an amazing evening. Adios.